Wimbledon is here. Did you know that?
I did know that Wimbledon is here. I did see something about this on my page.
Good talk. That was great. That was really good.
I gotta say, I have never been somebody who knows like a shit ton about tennis. So I'm really excited for our special guest today who's gonna teach us some shit about tennis.
I love that. It's gonna be dope.
I'm a hot girl. I get anything I want. This is my world. I make big moves in my big heels. Since the day that I was born, I've been a big deal.
What'd you do? How was your weekend?
My weekend was, well, I got detained for like momentarily by ICE. So that was fun.
No. Vanilla ice, baby.
That was me. That was me at the border, which is, mind-boggling because like I was the only person. Me and my fiance were the only person in there, and yet like the border agent was like, "Well, what are your plans for entering the U.S.?" And I was like, "I live here. Well, how do we know that you're doing all the right things?" And I was like, "Sir, I don't know how to convince you that I'm a good person, but you're just gonna have to take my word for it."
If you're doing all the right things, what are the right things? As long as I'm not smuggling drugs, smuggling people, and I get this girl back across the country on time, which her ticket says, you can just kick rocks.
You can
pretty
kick
much.
rocks. Yeah, but he gave us this whole things are different now under this administration.
Oh, things are different now. Yes, let me not get sure political about how different they are.
Yeah. How was your weekend?
Well, Ollie, we found out, me and Ollie, that he doesn't know how to play with other dogs, so he just growls at them.
Doesn't play well with others?
Well, he's so submissive, but he doesn't really know how to make friends, and so he just growls at every dog that he goes past. So I'm in socialization mode. I'm just forcing him to go to the park and meet other animals, and I have to be like, "I'm sorry, he's 5 months, he doesn't know anything, I'm sorry, he won't do anything, he's not aggressive, I promise." And they're like, "Oh,
he's
yeah,
just
no,
a baby."
it's totally..." They're like, "Oh, yeah, he's so cute, anyway, see you later," and they just leave. So he made one friend this weekend, which is really cute, and the dog's name is Tokyo, and now I have a lot of faith and belief that, yes, Tokyo, the mini Labradoodle, so I have faith that Ollie is going to be able to figure it out.
Ollie's gonna make friends. Did you find Tokyo the mini Labradoodle on like a Craigslist? Like
no,
make friends for pets?
No, it was just random. It was random. And I saw him, Ollie actually walked past him and ran into the baseball diamond after him. And I'm like, "Oh no, what's this about to be?" And the woman's like, "Is this dog aggressive?" I'm like, "No, I promise he's not." And then after about 5 minutes, Ollie's laying on his back, just breathing crazy, and he's chasing this dog who's chasing the ball. That's all he wants to do is chase a dog that chases a ball.
Why not? I don't blame him. We got a lot to get through, though, so you better do this intro.
Welcome to Let Her Shoot, the only podcast that covers women's sports in the way that we want them covered, which is no bullshit, no kid gloves, just respect for the athletes and all the reasons to stay locked in. You got Sarah Chavnik here on the mic. She's our producer. Two-time Emmy Award-winning producer, Trista Crick. I am, quote-unquote, the talent. So no Emmys for me, 0 ones. We have a stacked show. The NWSL is off for the month of July, but we have plenty of drama in the WNBA to keep you up to date. We are talking about scheduling, fatigue, we're tired, Sarah, and expansion and exhaustion. The Euros also starts this week. Center court of Wimbledon is upon us. All white on white on white. Get your Pimm's cup. And we have a special guest with us today, Blair Henley, to talk about all things tennis and what to watch for as that begins. I got a lot to ask her, too.
I got a lot of questions, but we got to start with some breaking news out of Dallas. A bombshell has been asked to leave the villa.
A bombshell has been asked to leave the villa. They said, "We have been voting for our favorite couple, and you, Nalyssa Smith, need to go to Las Vegas."
Production sent her off.
It's been tough. This was a couple that has had a rocky road. They've been with each other since Baylor, on and off. Yep. So the first time they've been teammates since college. There was a lot of hoopla around Nalyssa Smith and Dijonai reuniting in Dallas with Paige. Mm-hmm. And we've seen all the tape of them getting the extracurriculars pregame, Nalyssa hasn't been that good either, to be honest. The Wings have traded for Lee Yi-Ru, and she's been awesome at the center position. I think she's actually going to catch on. She came over from the Storm. So Nalyssa, when she's not playing well and she's doing the extracurriculars, hey, we got to ship you off. I think that's kind of what happened. And they're heartbroken. They were totally blindsided by it. There was tons of tweets and Instagram comments and posts.
Yeah, so just for anyone who hasn't seen this news, because it literally just came out as we were about to get on this podcast, but Nalyssa Smith traded to the Las Vegas Aces from the Dallas Wings. Dallas will receive a 2027 first round pick. It feels a little like in the future-y, right? Like Dallas needs help now. Why is a 2027 first round pick? Do you think is this strictly business, or is this production interfering with a couple in the villa that they're sending someone home because they want to see something else going on? What is your take?
We want to see Lee Yi-Ru have a chance at love. Really. We want to see how many minutes that she can stack. She's been awesome. Dallas, since they've traded for her, in their last 6 games is 4-2, and they only have 5 wins in total. So she's been a revelation. She is that bombshell that comes into the villa that you're like, oh, this is not just a Jalen. This is not just a one and done, like a one episode and done. Like, I think Lee can stay through the full season and next season. So that's what I think it is. And then on top of that, I honestly think probably Dallas is like, we really don't want to see Nalyssa and Dijonai together. Whatever Dijonai's declining production is, how much of that is responsible from whatever they're doing pregame, or I'm not saying that's 100% of it. I'm not saying it's 50% of it. Is it part of it?
But
remember,
we had
Angel.
Right.
Remember, we had Angel McCoughtry on.
I do remember having Angel McCoughtry on. Yeah.
Yeah, and she said, which could have been, we could have posted this, we didn't. Where she said, you can tell which girls on the team have girlfriends and which ones have boyfriends.
Yeah.
The girlfriends want to snuggle and watch Love Island, and the boyfriends want to, get your rebounds. And Dijonai, your girlfriend, is no longer going to be watching Love Island with you when it's time for the rebounds. I
guess we'll have to see what happens if Dallas replaces her. We had another.
She's replaced. She is replaced. She's
already been replaced. But I meant like in the roster spot. They now have an open roster spot. Are they clearing cap space? I saw some things saying, are they clearing cap space for DaWanna Bonner? Which I think that's a no. But I think that's a resounding no. We got to talk about the self-eviction, because we had another leaving the villa here. But DaWanna Bonner has opted out of continuing her journey to love in Indiana and has decided to leave the team. But
she's like if Rob actually left the villa when they would have voted Andrea out. Like when Rob in season 6 decides, oh, you just sent 3 home and not 2. If
now you sent 3 home. Yeah, you did your big one.
If you would have actually left, that's what DaWanna Bonner would have been. So
yeah,
DaWanna Bonner gets waived from the Fever.
She gets waived from the Fever. She had been out for, I think, like 4 games due to personal reasons, and there was a lot of speculation on what that could mean. And then it came back that the team had released her. Well, these things kind of came out in parts. First, Annie Constable said from Front Office Sports had reported that DaWanna Bonner had no interest in returning. Then the next day we hear they've waived her. And then after that we hear not only have they waived her, but they're asking teams to not claim her off of waivers. So she said that she wanted to go to the Mercury, which is where Alyssa Thomas plays. I feel like a lot has been being made out to be DaWanna Bonner's unprofessional, DaWanna Bonner's a quitter, DaWanna Bonner doesn't want to be there. I feel like it's not that deep.
Honestly, it feels like if the Fever said, hey, don't claim her off of waivers, and they didn't pursue a trade for her, which I don't think that they did, it feels like they're working with DaWanna Bonner to get DaWanna Bonner to wherever is going to make her happy. Whether that's the Mercury, I think she also said she would go and play for the Atlanta Dream. It feels very motivated by personal reasons, right?
Yeah, very much.
She's a is her 16th year?
Something like that.
She's been in the league a long 37. Time. Married to Alyssa Thomas, who lives in Phoenix now, and they have kids. And I don't know where the kids are, but obviously when they've been teammates with Connecticut for as long as they have, they've built a little family unit. It's not the same as Dijonai and Nalyssa. And so to me it feels like, well, if my production or my role is declining and I'm no longer a starter and whatever I'm getting out of this is not what I thought and I'm sacrificing my family time, I would just prefer to take a smaller role for less money on the team where my whole family unit is.
Yeah, I mean, Christine Brennan said that she heard DaWanna Bonner wanted out because she couldn't handle the spotlight. Like, fuck, give me a fucking break. DaWanna Bonner is a pro. She's a pro. Like,
honestly,
are you kidding
we need
me?
to talk about this for a second.
Yeah, we gotta talk about it. Let's talk.
Christine Brennan, first of all, let me just say, I've worked with Christine for on many occasions. She's been nothing but nice to me. I've had multiple, hey, can I pull you for a chats on a professional level where she gave me a lot of insight. Gave me a lot of insight on the business. She loves the new wave of media. She is not the new wave of media, but she was very supportive of me in my early journey at USA Today. She has accolades up the wazoo. So I'll preface that all by saying large amount of respect for Christine Brennan on a personal and professional basis. But what we are seeing from Christine Brennan is in terms of like how she's covering the WNBA and leaning all the way in on the WNBA around Caitlin and the Caitlin Clark book. To me, as someone who likes Christine, and again, I will continue to say I like Christine, this is grifting. This is like she went on Outkick. We can't
go on Outkick.
We can't do this. And as someone who's been on Outkick as a contributor, we cannot be peddling conservative rhetoric on Outkick. If you're going to go on Outkick, you need to put 10 toes down and not be doing the whole Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark thing. You got to be
shutting that down. Yeah, you got to be shutting it down. And it seems like she's feeding into it by saying,
absolutely.
Because we're hearing all this stuff about DaWanna Bonner. DaWanna Bonner doesn't like the politics of the Fever. She doesn't like Caitlin Clark. She doesn't like the coaching. It's homophobic there. Which, by the way, Stephanie White is gay and married to a black woman. So I highly doubt that you're getting a lot of racism and homophobia from Stephanie White. Like I just don't see a culture in which she adopts that to be, a topic of conversation in the locker room. And I think it's irresponsible to sit here and drag DaWanna Bonner's name through the mud when in reality
we're not doing that.
She wants to be with her kids, or Alyssa Thomas wants to be with her kids. One of them probably wants to be with their kids. And I don't think it's that deep.
Here's how it goes. Hey, baby, you're playing 6 minutes a game. I know you're making $200K, but what are we really doing? You know what I'm saying? Maybe you want to come on home. Phoenix, the roads are great this time of year. I know it's getting hot, but why don't you just figure it out? I don't think that this is as deep as people want it to make it out to be, and I think just everything around the Fever is so politically charged that anything when there's something that's not quite giving us all the information that we want, we assume just the worst case scenario. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing like the Fever monkey sounds. I'm not fucking buying in.
I'm not going to bite on this. I'm not going to bite on it.
This is the onion. Yeah. This is Snopes. We're not doing that.
We're going to Snopes this right out. Let's talk about another rumor that's going around.
Rumors.
Dawn Staley. Dawn Staley to the Knicks. Is the rumor that is soup. That was my Love Island sound. You didn't get that?
Oh, okay.
That was the coming back from, okay. We're just going to take this right through. So Dawn Staley has been linked to a possible... The Knicks pulled Dawn Staley for a chat, is what they're saying, is what the streets are saying. And
the Knicks have been single for a while.
The Knicks have been single for a while.
And they're thinking that Dawn Staley is the new Bombshell that could come in and stick for the long haul. They could
come in and stick. Dawn Staley, these rumors are completely unsubstantiated. However, she has said in the past she doesn't really have any interest in going and coaching the men's game on any level, I feel like she's got a little bit of that Nick Saban in her, where she'd rather build her dynasty in college and develop players for the next level rather than go and be that coach at the next level that can get... Because what's going to happen is she goes to New York and she's going to get destroyed by the NBA fan base, because that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things where on one level, I would love to see a woman coach an NBA team, and that's the pinnacle NBA team to coach. The Lakers, the Celtics, the Knicks. One of those three. They're storied franchises. The fan bases, though, are insane. And
insane.
If you think it's bad when a female woman ref makes a bad call in a men's game, let me introduce you to how bad it'll get for someone even as storied and as legendary and as capable and qualified as Dawn Staley. It'll get so horrendous, and the commentary will be probably racist, definitely sexist, and some combination of like, go back to your fucking sport nobody cares about. That's what people will say.
That is what the narrative will be.
On one hand, I want to see it happen for progress. And Dawn Staley would certainly, the Portland Trailblazers interviewed or wanted Dawn Staley before they hired Chauncey Billups. And I remember, though, it's a quick side road, that Dawn said in that particular case, if she would have been offered that job, she would have felt like she had to take it. I don't know what's changed, and I'm not sure, like, whether she was being, I don't know, honest at the time, or it's like kind of, it's too late, so I'm just gonna say that. But I don't think you wreck your legacy for an opportunity that will be ripe for scrutiny and criticism. However, I do think it's got to be someone, and if it is someone, that someone like Dawn Staley would be the best someone.
I also think we just need to change this narrative a little bit, that a woman getting a job in a men's sport is a step up from a woman getting a job in a women's sport. I think
it is.
It is
a step up.
It is a step up money-wise. It is a step up.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is, I think the goal eventually is to get to a place where it's not a step up. It's just a lateral move, because women's sports are treated equally, and we don't need to look at it that way. Let's go on into some WNBA news. I want to ask you first, by the way. We were in the news again. But before we even get to that, because the topic of this is hilarious, did you see the video of Kelsey Plum being picked up and dragged away by Rickea Jackson from getting a foul like she was a toddler throwing a temper tantrum in a store?
I did. Kelsey Plum is a deeply unserious person, but let's watch the tape.
This is one of my favorite clips.
So she's trying to grab the jump ball. Is that Kia Nurse? She's getting into it with Kia Nurse. And Rickea's like, no, I'm going to need you to go all the way that way.
The way Rickea picks her up.
Rickea's strong for this. Rickea's got some guns to be able to, because she swooped in. You know how she swooped in? She swooped in like I swoop in on Ollie when he's about to lick diarrhea off the cement. That's
scoop.
Like, oh no, you're not about to do that. That's a no there.
She gave her the old scoop and pull, which was
the scoop-a-loop. I call it the scoop-a-loop.
The scoop-a-loop. It was like literally like watching a dog owner pick up their dog, and the men being like, no, we're not going to fight with that dog. That one's bigger than you. No, we're not doing that. That one's bigger than you. Let's back off. That was, oh my God. And her facial reaction, too, on top of it was like...
It was
like Rickea's.
It was immediate, too. It was before anything even had the possibility of happening. It was, whoop, you're gone.
She just said, whoop, nope, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. We're not getting you a tech today. Kelsey Plum is tired. That's what we know. We know Kelsey Plum is tired. And why do we know that?
Her Instagram fingers are vibrant and active.
You posted a little stat on your threads.
Yeah, because I think what was happening was everybody was kind of like, being insane, which I'm pretty sure that WNBA fans, there's a sector of them that are just Looney Tunes.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. Sports fans in general.
No, but like this group of women's, like the WNBA fans, it's almost like they've never been a fan of any other sport before. And the way that it's all centering on Caitlin Clark, whether pro or against, just is continuously driving me nuts. So, you know, the slump we talked about last week. Turns out a lot of WNBA players that are great shooters are in a slump. Kelsey Plum being one of them. So I posted about it. And a lot of people, including other journalists, were like, this is just you making excuses for Caitlin. And I'm like, whoa.
Which is wild, because there's like 15 names on that list, but okay.
I was just saying, well, because it started out by saying, hey, everybody's saying Caitlin's in a slump, but did you see that these people are also in a slump?
Correct,
And so they heard, oh, she's protecting Caitlin. And I was not protecting Caitlin. I just was pointing out that, hey, this is maybe bigger than just Caitlin, for all the people who are so hyper-focused on Caitlin. Mm-hmm. And other people got upset. And then all of a sudden, I think I texted you immediately, or maybe even called you immediately, and Kelsey Plum commented on it and said, we're tired. Laughing face.
We're tired.
It's because we're tired.
And I can't blame her. Because when you look at this schedule, I don't know how you couldn't not be tired.
Everybody's going to say, and there's a lot of people who are saying, well, these WNBA players want more money, so that's what needs to happen is you need to schedule more games. Or the men's game, they have back-to-backs. The men's game play 82 games. But the problem with that argument is that it's not just that they're playing back-to-backs or a specific amount of games per week. It's that sometimes you play 5 games in 8 days, and sometimes you play 2 games in 8 days, and all of that is centered on. What do you think that's centered on? This schedule.
Well, I know what it's centered on. It's centered on getting Caitlin Clark in prime time. Yeah, it's scheduled on getting Caitlin on TV, and maybe if the W actually promoted some of their other athletes instead of just Caitlin, they wouldn't need to put Caitlin in primetime every week, and they could put some of these other people in primetime every week because people would be just as excited to watch them play as they are to watch Caitlin play.
Or maybe they could think to themselves, even if we are so high on Caitlin, we think all, like 41 of her 44 games should be nationally televised. What happens if Caitlin Clark has a quad injury? What happens if Caitlin Clark has a groin injury? What happens if she has both of those things due to the fact, or at least in some correlation with the fact, that this schedule is insane, and it was insane for them last year? So what are you going to do? What are you going to do if there's a bunch of Indiana Fever games on national TV and Caitlin Clark is sitting there in street clothes? What are you going to do then, Sarah?
Someone asked Natalie Nakasi after the Valkyries game if she thought that fatigue could have been a factor, and her answer was wild to me because she said, I don't know. I guess I should probably ask them if they're tired.
That's an insane answer.
What?
That's an insane
You don't
answer.
know if your players are tired? How do you not know?
I think the best part is that we've gotten into the news cycle again and started a conversation again. Because nobody listened when Satu Sabali said, hey, this schedule's insane.
We're playing too much. This is too much.
But now everyone's asking. Sonia Citron was asked directly about fatigue.
Paige was asked.
Like, yeah, we are tired. I don't know how these players have back-to-backs. Paige Becker has talked about the schedule. Natalie Nakasi is having to take questions about it as well. So, to me, I think that there's something that needs to change, especially considering that we had more games added to this season, and we didn't change the length of the season at all. And now we have 2 more teams coming next year, possibly a 50-game season. What's going to happen with the length of the schedule and the length of the season?
Just real quick, do you know who's not in a slump right now? You know who's not tired right now?
Do you mean Caitlin? I'm having a hard time even saying this without laughing. Caitlin Clark's arch nemesis?
Caitlin Clark's arch nemesis, Angel Reese, who has
It's a joke, guys. It's a joke. I don't mean that.
It's a joke. It's a joke. They are able to exist on the same plane without having to be each other's rivals and brought up in the same sentence. But Angel Reese, the other night, set a record for the most games of 15 rebounds or more at 4. She had 4 in a row, 15 or more rebounds. You know what? The previous record, also held by Angel Reese. She now has the most rebounds, 644, in the first 50 games of a career in history. And for all the people who are going to sit there and say, oh, these are rebounds, she also had 24 points. So let's just go ahead and shut that down right now. She's balling, and you got to let her have it. Because
in her last 3 games, she has 24 points, 17 points, and 18 points. 16 rebounds, 18 rebounds, 17 rebounds, and then 19 rebounds the game before. 7 assists, 2 assists, 6 assists, and 4 assists. She has steals in all 4 of those games. Actually, she has steals in every one of her last 6 games, 7 games, 8 games, 9 games. 9 games, excuse me. She has blocks in 4 of the last 6 games. And she has some threes that she's taking as well. So she's stretching the floor a little bit. This is not an Angel Reese apology page. This is an Angel Reese truther page podcast. So we're not about to slander her name like all she does is get her own rebounds. And by the way,
all
even
she
if
does
she did,
is get rebounds.
Even if she did, why can't you stop her? Why can't you stop her? Why can't you get the rebounds?
Yeah, why is she scoring 24 points if all she does is get her own rebounds? Love to know that answer.
And her field goal percentage in her last 3 games is pretty damn good. 52, 44, 50. Let's stop. Let's stop the madness.
We got to stop the cap. Stop the cap. Expansion, though, like you said, another bit of breaking news before we came on this podcast. The W has announced that there will be 3 additional teams added between now and 2030. Philadelphia, Detroit, and Cleveland. Still not a Houston team. Still not a Denver team. Still not a Kansas City team, which a lot of people were hoping for one of those 3 to have a place. But what do we think this means? I mean, there's some pros and cons of this.
I think, you know how, like, do you ever, when you were in middle school or elementary school, like, did you ever have that kid in school who, like, they did something, and so, like, Johnny brought his little Game Boy to class, and he fucked it up for everybody. So nobody can even bring any electronics into class anymore. And so, because one kid did something that they weren't supposed to do, and it was such a mess, now everybody is ruined. Over.
That was probably me, by the way. I was probably that kid. I was
what
probably that kid. Yeah. I don't know. I remember I got, like, in detention once for, like, popping some kid's science project.
Oh, my God.
It was like a balloon.
I got,
it's like a helium balloon.
I got kicked off of a school trip because I was stealing Goosebumps books and putting it in other kids' desks. So I was literally like...
Goosebumps were great, though.
Yeah, they were. And I got snitched. There was a snitching incident over that. Anyway, that's what this is to me, is the things were going well, and then you've actually got 2 scenarios. 2 things. Because you also have the kid that has outperformed everybody, and now the teacher thinks that everybody should be doing what that kid does as well. So you have the class clown, the Portland franchise, and you have
the brown noser. You have the brown noser.
Yeah.
She's the Valkyries.
You have the brown noser, the top of the class. Nobody's ever going to be that kid. And then you have the class clown that brings things down. Now we can't have nice things anymore. So you got Portland.
Yeah.
Portland doesn't even have a team name. Portland doesn't have a logo, which you would need if you would have, like, you need a team name for that.
They don't have a president, a GM, or a coach either.
They don't have a president. They don't have a GM. They don't have a coach. We don't know what is happening. We know that some sort of practice facility is being built.
We know there is a team. That is what we know. There is a team.
We know there
theoretically
will be a team in less than 12 months. So that's a mess. To me, that's like, and that's a team that's owned by, how do I pronounce their name? What are the Baltals? The Batals? The ones that own the Thorn.
They own the Thorns, yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
and Portland historically has had ownership issues. Like,
yes.
As a whole in women's sports.
And the issue is that you couldn't get the Allen family to own another Portland team because they already did that. And the team collapsed and folded. And that team, the Portland Trailblazers, are being sold right now. So if you're going to get a Portland expansion team, you're going to either have to wait for the Blazers to sell and that new owner to want to buy a WNBA team, which, by the way, right now we're seeing that the prices have gone way up, or you try to get the Batals to do it, which they did, and it's a mess. On the other hand, you have the Valkyries, who bought an expansion team for $50 million And in less than 2 months of having a team on the floor, they are now worth $500 million. Just like that. They have...
And in playoff contention.
They're in playoff contention. They have $70 million in revenue so far this year. They're selling out every game. They've sold 10,000 in season tickets.
Real quick, because this isn't the point of it, but I just want to tell you, I know exactly why they're worth that now. Because, well, the throw your visa, but also they're doing Sephora drops during...
That's not why.
Like,
but
timeouts.
That's a brilliant strategy. That's not why, though.
But it is why. Because what it shows is that is a front office that cares about the people in their stadium. In their arena. They care about the fans that are coming and showing up. That is what that shows. It's not necessarily, the Sephora gift cards falling from the sky is not why there are people there. But what it shows is that this is a place that understands, here's what people want, women, and is catering towards that fan base.
You know what's frustrating is when, like, you go to a game and they have their little, like, t-shirt gun. Or they put the T-shirts on the back of the seats, and it's like...
Or they have Kelsey Plum's arm.
It's like double XL.
Always.
That's what Portland's going to do for their women's team. It's like, what do
They're going to put double XL in every seat, yeah.
What are we doing? Are you even thinking about who's in these stands?
No.
So, it's a good point that you make about Sephora, because I think you're right. I think that has to do with just knowing what your brand should be and, like, really leaning into it. And the owner of the Warriors, Joe Lacob, he has done a phenomenal job with the Golden State Warriors, turning them into like one of the most valuable brands in the NBA. But also doing a great job in terms of like, hey, I want the women's brand to do just as well. I want Valhalla to be a place, Chase Center, huge gay and lesbian population, by the way, in the Bay Area. So that's huge. You're not getting this in Cleveland. I'm sorry to say. You're not getting this in Detroit. Maybe you'll have a lot of fans there, but you're not getting this in Philadelphia. Not the same way that you're getting it in San Francisco. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
No, and to be honest, you're sandwiching a Philadelphia team between two already, well, let me rephrase that. One kind of struggling franchise and one really successful franchise in the Liberty and in the Mystics. So it's just kind of sandwiching in between, there's 60 miles between these cities. Like I don't know that that's really a place that you should be expanding to. And that's just my personal 2 cents. We've got a guest that just popped in. So I want to introduce her.
Let's get her to go as viral as Angel McCautry went.
Yeah, let's I think there are certain goals that we should have and there are certain goals we shouldn't have. And
I'm just kidding. My goal always is just to make you laugh. Make you and Blair laugh. That's my only goal. It's tough. It's a tough goal to reach every podcast episode.
It is. Blair, it's so great to have you here. We're so excited to talk some tennis because this is not Trista and I's, this is not our lane. We are not tennis experts, and so we need to be educated a little bit.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so excited to be here. I wore my W that may also be for my friends at Wilson, but it's for sure for the Daily W. So congrats on all your success, guys. Love what you're doing, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you.
Oh, this is so dope. So I was trying to tell Sarah, because I love Wimbledon. I don't know really a lot about tennis, but I know we got Pim's Cups. I know we got white on white. I know we got strawberries and cream. I've queued, Blair. Did you know that? I've queued.
That automatically vaults you into a certain stratosphere of tennis fandom. I have not queued, nor have I really had a desire to queue. I look at that line and I'm like, respect to you all. I would not have the patience.
What is queuing?
It's where you wait for tickets. You have to stand in line for I think we stood in line for four hours to get tickets.
Wow.
They're sleeping overnight in a field in tents. It's incredibly intense, actually. Yeah. So anyway, very impressed.
Take the tube to Kew Gardens. Then you can pay to get to a main court or a court, and you just get it chosen at random. I think we paid like £10, and I got to see Sharapova on the main court. So that's my only Wimbledon story.
Oh, we like to start our segments and we like to start our guests off with some tea. And so the tea that we know about in the tennis world is Trinity and Ben. Mm-hmm. And I would love to hear your thoughts on our girl Trinity and your guy Ben?
Well, the first thing I'll say is, as somebody who does a lot of social media content for tournaments, the thing that we're always trying to figure out is how do we get cross promotion? And that could be between the men and the women, or that could be amongst different sports. And I just want to say a huge shout out to Ben and Trinity for giving us the best possible cross promotion for tennis and soccer, which traditionally, maybe for women in soccer in the US, but maybe not the most popular American sport. So I love this for them, and I love this for us.
Did you see the hard launch, and at what point did you know? Like, did you know before they went Instagram or TikTok official? Had you been seeing in your coverage Trinity be showing up? Is this something that, like, there was insider's tea before we all found out about it?
There was insider tea. I was not far enough on the inside to get that tea prior to seeing it on TikTok. I got to spend some time with Ben at the Australian Open. We did an interview, and I have never seen the guy in a better mood. There was footage of him. He was dancing in the hallways. The Australian Open has all of these like undercover cameras, so the players can't really go anywhere without being filmed. And just dancing to himself. I'm like, and now that all sort of tracks.
He was in love.
Was he at that point? Who knows? But now it seems clear that they are loving their time together. And so I'm excited for them.
We've seen there's some rumors about Alcaraz maybe has a little bit of a new romance. Is there anything about this?
According to Emma Raducanu, absolutely not. She was asked about this in press. Wimbledon is unique in that, and really any of the British tournaments are unique in that you often have tabloid reporters in the press room, which is not something you really get along the tennis circuit elsewhere. And so she was asked straight up, is there anything to the time that you guys have been spending together? They're playing mixed doubles together at the US Open. Can we read into this? And she said, nope, we are just friends. And it was really funny because the moderator said, okay, I think we're going to wrap that up there. And Emma said, yes, what a great spot to wrap that up. And she just walked out of the press room. It was very cute. But according to Emma, nothing but a friendship.
I've been the person that has wrapped up a presser just based on my awful question. Like my pop culture question. So that tabloid reporter probably was just crawling in his or her skin. I don't know if you saw this, but did you see, this is trending on social as well, Alcaraz going out of his way to say hi to Coco Gauff? Because there's been kind of a little bit of a little something there as well.
I think if you've ever seen Carlos Alcaraz in the wild, behind the scenes, you will know that that is just how he is. He is sort of a walking golden retriever. It's like, oh, ball, ooh, stick. Like, he just is smiling. He's just he kind of bounces as he walks. He is just that smiley guy who probably wants to say hi or probably has huge respect for his fellow Roland Garros champion. I don't know if that was maybe the first time they had seen each other since they both won in Paris. So that is really just how he is. And I hope he stays that way forever. I'm sure you guys have seen in other sports, sometimes athletes come along and they have that bounciness and golden retriever quality at the beginning. And then maybe something's taken out of context or they get burned in some way, or maybe they say too much. And then all of a sudden they kind of retreat into a shell a little bit. Thankfully, that has not happened yet with Carlos Alcaraz, and we're thrilled.
Coco and Sabalenka seem to have put an end to any narrative that there was beef between them. What did you see from that moment? From that initial press conference moment, that was that taken out of proportion? Was that blown out of proportion? And to now seeing them, dancing together on TikTok and showing, hey, there's no beef here.
Well, in the year of our Lord 2025, what other way is there to quash beef than to do a joint TikTok dance? I think that's great for them. But if we're rewinding back to Sabalenka's trophy runner-up speech and then what she said in the press room, I tend to have a lot of sympathy for what players say after a loss. Tennis is one of those sports where you have to wait around and talk immediately after what is often a crushing blow. And then she had some time, and then she came into the press room and she kind of doubled down on what she said on court. And again, I feel like I have a lot of empathy for that. I give players maybe more leeway than some others, but I felt like she could have said the things that she said and then also said the things that she needed to say. Coco played better today. You know, she has beat me now 2 of the last 4 times they played. Coco has a winning record over Sabalenka, 6-5 right now. There were things that she could have sprinkled in that would have softened the other things that she said, which were really born out of frustration. She didn't say those things. And as a result, it hit the mainstream. I mean, Stephen A. Smith was talking about this press conference. There were Real Housewives commenting on it on social media.
Oh my God.
It entered the zeitgeist. It took on a life of its own. And I think eventually, and Coco even said herself, she's like, kind of thought the apology would come a little quicker than it did. But eventually she reached out and said what she needed to say to Coco behind the scenes. And then obviously they had that great practice session where they, got their social media clout as well.
Felt like it was built by a PR person. Where she was like, Coco played the better game. It looked like she was either had gun to the head vibes, or it was a PR company that said, hey, you just write this on your story right now so we could get in front of this or behind this or just get it over with.
Yes, agree with that. I don't know that Arena was sitting there penning that herself. But Coco did say that Arena reached out to her directly after that. So yes, the apology was, and then after that, there was a direct apology to Coco, which I think, and Coco said she extended the olive branch and I accepted it and we're good. And so you guys should be good too.
Is it better for tennis to have like a legit hatred rivalry, especially with one American player?
I love a rivalry. So yes, I think that's a huge bonus when those things happen. And I think we've sort of seen that with Arena and Coco. And so are you asking, like, should we want there to be like a grudge match happening in addition?
Yeah, like part of me was like, oh, this is cute that I saw them squash this beef, and I feel it's great that they're like, there's nothing between us, we like each other, yada, 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 blase, blase. But like, if I see Goff and Sabalenka, and the squash beef hadn't happened, I'm tuning in much more readily than I am now that they're all cozy again.
I would agree with you there. I also will say I think there's going to be some intrigue the next time they play because of, even though there were apologies, Arena very clearly said that she should not have lost that match. She was the one who, like, Coco didn't win it. She's the one who lost it. And so I do think just by virtue of her saying it at all, that there will be some more intrigue. But your point is taken. I think a little bit of chatter is a good thing.
Casual American sports watchers, right? They don't watch much other than Wimbledon or the US Open. So how valuable is it for the sport to have an American like Coco in that hot seat? Because I got a lot of pushback on this, like, oh no, tennis is fine without Coco. And I have to disagree.
I think it's big, and I think it's bigger, and this might seem like a Captain Obvious statement, but I think it's extra huge for people in the United States, because in the US there is so much competition. Tennis is maybe not the first sport you're putting your child into. And in Europe, that is much more common. You have countries like the Czech Republic, which is not a large country, that just churns out incredible players year after year, because that is one of the sports that everybody is just funneling their little girls into. That is not the case here in the US. I think it is huge, in particular for the growth of the sport. I think it's huge for the growth in terms of visibility. That's obviously fantastic to have an international superstar who's up on your billboards and you're splashing everywhere in advance of the US Open. But I think in terms of people actually picking up tennis rackets, it's massive. And don't forget, I mean, right now we have 4 American women in the top 10, and Anisimova is number 12. So we have, on the women's side, sort of had an embarrassment of riches. But you're right, the Coco star power is sort of a I don't know, it has its own life, which is incredible for her and for the rest of us who work in this sport.
Yeah, and I think it was maybe Serena's former coach. There was a coach that went on a podcast and said, the women's game has no American stars. And so to dovetail off of that, you talk about how many Americans are in the top 10, top 12. The only one right now with like a high level of name recognition is Coco. Do you think that that's true? Like, do you think that we're lacking star power for American women now that Serena and Venus have retired?
I think we're doing okay. I think Aryna Sabalenka, it really is a huge star. She has a home base in the U.S., so she has sort of made herself available to American fans in that way as well. But just a quick note on that coach that you mentioned. That was Patrick Mouratoglou, who is the current coach of Naomi Osaka, who is arguably one of the biggest sports stars that we have, men's or women's. So, I mean, there's Naomi also, who has continued to transcend the sport of tennis, obviously hasn't found her best tennis yet prior to, post having her little daughter. But she is a massive star. So I think we're doing okay. And I also think that is on the media. We have got to tell the stories. And I will also say, I think the players' teams have to let us tell the stories. Tennis, again, can be very individual sport, and you have, people surrounding that player. And sometimes it's hard to get a sit-down interview that covers anything beyond the very basics. And so I think that is a huge part of it. We have to be able to tell people why they should care. Amanda Anisimova, for instance, number 12 player in the world right now, as I said, has an incredible story. I don't know that many people know it. And so my hope is that as we ride this wave, that we can do a really good job of telling those stories and telling people why they should care.
Not to put you on the spot, but what is her story?
Yeah, so she actually lost her father, who was her coach, a few years ago when I believe she was in the top 20 at the time, and everyone thought she was going to be one of the next big things. And that affected her in a really significant way, as you might imagine. And last year, she took some time away from the sport. Just said, I'm going to take a mental health break. I know she's explored art, which is really impressive. She took some time to work on some other hobbies, and she's come back and is playing the best tennis of her career. So she's taken a little bit of extra time to do it, but she's done it in her own time. And I think she's comfortable in her skin now in a way that she might not have been 5 years ago.
I was just going to circle back really fast before we talk about Naomi, about Coco. And when she beat Venus in the first round at Wimbledon, I think collectively there was this moment like, oh my God, what could Coco be? Like, how dominant can we see her? And on grass, there's been not necessarily the same level of dominance as we've seen her on other surfaces, including clay, right? So when you're looking at her in terms of Wimbledon performance, why do you think she is a player that struggles on that surface, and what do you think that means for Wimbledon this year?
I think it's important to remember that she's still just 21 and I think this is the 6th time she's played Wimbledon. And so her experience on grass is still relatively small because there are only 3 weeks between the final of Roland Garros and day one of Wimbledon. So the opportunity for players to get experience on that surface is minimal, number one. But Coco's game also lends itself to loving a little extra time. And that, I think, is why she's so great on clay. It's a little bit slower. The balls bounce a little bit higher. She hits incredibly heavy balls. That means a lot of spin, a lot of arc on the ball. That is harder to do on grass, which is a little bit faster. The ball doesn't bounce up as high, and that exploits her weaker side, which is her forehand side. And listen, some days if you didn't know anything about Coco Gauff, you wouldn't go out and say, wow, that's a weak forehand. But if something's going to break down, it's often that forehand side or the serve, and playing on grass just exploits those weaknesses a little bit more.
You brought up Naomi and her not getting back really to her full form since coming back from maternity. What what is it that we're seeing from Naomi? Is it just a matter of the minutes getting back on the court, or is there something else there?
I think it's going to happen for Naomi. I really do. I think though she is such a pure ball striker. If you hear people talk about her, that's the phrase that they will use. Pure ball striker. When she is playing her best, it doesn't matter if you've never seen a tennis match before in your life. You're going to be like, ooh, that is clean coming off the strings. And one thing I do think though, in the past, maybe, I don't know, 5-10 years, I think players have gotten really good at developing other tools. So yes, Naomi can hit it incredibly clean, but sometimes people can actually work their way into a rhythm against that because the ball is so pure coming off her racket. So her opponents are able to work their way in. And I don't think she's back to the level that she was pre-baby yet. And if it's not functioning at, all 5 cylinders aren't firing, it's just enough weakness that an opponent can sneak in. And I do think it would help her if I would love to see a little bit more variety from Naomi Osaka in this sort of second chapter of her career. But I do think it's going to happen.
How did you think today looked against Gibson? Because I was watching a little bit on streaming, and they had to go to a tie break. There was a couple of faults. Again, I don't know much about tennis, but I just know that those little moments, I could kind of see a little bit of frustration.
I wouldn't put too much stock into a first round match for a lot of players, and particularly players who've had the experience of winning a slam. So you have to win 7 matches, and that's assuming you're not a qualifier, as Emma Raducanu was at the US Open a few years ago. But you have to win 7 matches to be raising that trophy at the end of the tournament. And so you will see a lot of players have maybe scratchy first rounds. And so I think if you can get through it, a win is a win, particularly early in the tournament.
Who is your dark horse and who's your favorite for Wimbledon?
Gosh. I'm going to start with my favorite, and I am going to hedge a little bit here, guys. I am sorry, but I am going to say my favorite is an American woman. Is that fair? Trista is rolling her eyes.
That's the only, we're only getting your favorite is one American. You got a choice of, you said how many in the top 10? We need a name, Blair. Yeah. We need a name.
Okay. I think I say watch out for Maddie Keys. I think Madison Keys could be so, and she has been historically lethal on grass, maybe just hasn't played her best at Wimbledon. But listen, guys, we are halfway to the calendar year American Women's Grand Slam, which is a little bit of a stretch, but we've had 2 American women champs in the first 2 slams of the year, which is massive. So my vote is that we keep that rolling. And sure, let's have Maddie Keys getting her 2nd Grand Slam title. Why not? Dark horse. I'm going to pick another American. Amanda Anisimova. Listen, I'm high on the American women. I'm going to say, I don't think people are really picking Amanda to win Wimbledon, but she's going to be my dark horse.
I have not heard one person say her name, and I've been talking on NBC a lot about Wimbledon. I do want to this is like a fun question. If you're like making a Build-A-Bear or like a Marvel superhero, women's tennis player, you've got to build the unbeatable tennis player using different elements of different players' games. What are you choosing from who?
I love this. I'm going to pick current players just in the vein of let's help people get to know who's playing today. For serve, I'm going to pick Elena Rybakina. I am going to pick Madison Keys for the forehand. On the backhand side, this is so hard. I'm going to split it just because I have such a soft spot for one-handed backhands and there are so few left, particularly on the women's side. I'm going to split the backhand between Tatiana Maria, the 37-year-old mother of 2 who just won a grass court tournament a couple of weeks ago. I am going to pick Tatiana Maria and Barbora Krejcikova, the defending Wimbledon champion, whose backhand is it's a 2-hander, but chef's kiss, thing of beauty. And then for the athleticism mentality aspect of things, Coco Gauff all the way. She's an insane athlete, but also I have not seen anyone dig, like she can dig when things get tight. And I've had the privilege of seeing it from courtside. It is incredible. It's like what you want kids to watch. I mean, in terms of being a role model in that department, it's unreal. So Coco Gauff for the mentality.
Wait, you think, hold up, Blair. Wait, hold up. Just a quick follow up on the mentality. You think, just to clarify, that Coco's mentality surpasses Serena's mentality for you?
I like the way that it manifests itself in Coco. It is a more fun and compelling watch.
Yes.
Serena was a fun and compelling watch for many people. I love the fact that Coco is just so steely and steady. And you can see when she gets frustrated. It's not that she doesn't get frustrated. There is sort of a quiet beast mode that's happening that I so love to watch.
I remember when Serena would have those levels of frustration, you almost felt like, at least towards the tail end of her career, like, oh shit. Like, is this thing about to go off the rails and her spiral, or is she going to take this to another level?
You never knew. And that was the appeal a lot of the time of watching, because you did not know. Is it going to go off the rails? Is she going to go and win the tournament? Who knows? And I do think that was compelling in its own way. I just personally, and I think too, having two daughters and saying this is what you want to shoot for if you are playing a sport. I think it's maybe more typical in that sense, the Coco approach.
I don't know. I think we need to bring back, I love the energy pops. Yes, I do. I love the tantrums. I love seeing the passion.
Well, Aryna Sabalenka is your girl.
Yeah.
If you think
show me my girl.
She was self-destructing, and she was leading in the first set, and that is when the self-destruction started. So there you go, Sarah. You've got to play.
That's my. I don't know if it's just because it's how I feel I would be on that type of stage, that like I would just lose it. I just enjoy watching. Like, I enjoy watching the women who have I don't want to say no decorum, because they have decorum, but they have no holds when it comes to how they're going to show their emotions. I just love that.
I don't disagree. I think that there is absolutely value in that. Yeah.
Yeah. So if before we let you run, if Coco's the steely one, if Sabalenka is the one that has that dominance but could be a train wreck at any time, what is Swiatek, which we have not spoken about, used to be former number one in the world and now has sort of fallen down a level, what would you describe her as?
I would describe Iga as an excellent front runner.
Ooh! That gave me shivers.
Did it really? I think when she was number one in the world, and when she was, the joke was that Iga had her own bakery. She was handing out, bagels and breadsticks to anyone who wanted one on the tour. She was so good as a front runner, and I think there are a lot of players who aren't great in that position. I think she's trying to figure out what it's like now, not being at that targets on your back every day, all day position. And granted, she will be, I think, in the live ranking, she's 4 in the world right now. She's seeded 8th at Wimbledon, but she just had a run to a final last week. So she's not far off. I really do think she'll probably be back to number 1 in the world, but she's having to try to figure out Iga 2.0. What does it look like when I am not in that front running position?
I gotta get I think my favorite part about Wimbledon is that it's on in the morning. That, like, you get to wake up and watch Wimbledon with your breakfast. Like, that's, I think, my favorite. Like, that's how, like, I like watching tennis,
It is the best. In your pajamas, for sure.
It's the best. No, Blair's the best. Blair's the best. She gave us some hot takes, little ones. I know she's not used to it. She's not used to the hot take machine. But we're going to get her there. She gave us some stuff here. Got the front running take. That one gave me shivers. The Serena take gave me shivers. It's good stuff.
Guys, can I be your tennis correspondent? If you're looking for one, I will come with more hot takes.
Okay, good.
Would now love that. Would love that.
It's like call her daddy. You got to dish. We're dishing, Blair. We're not playing it safe here. Blair, thank you so much for coming on. I love making you laugh. You're tremendous. That's all the time that we have for this episode of Let Her Shoot. Say it for me, Blair. Let her shoot.
Let her shoot.
There it is. There it is. We got more hot takes. We got more coverage coming. We didn't get to the NWSL. We may record later when this podcast studio is back available. We had so much more we wanted to say, but thank you to Adrian. Thank you to Blair. Thank you to the producer / co-host Sarah Chovnik, a.k.a. 2Emmy Sarah. We just got to get her 2 times smiling, but we'll get her there, and we'll see you next week.
I'm a hot girl. I get anything I want, this is my world. I make big moves in my big heels. Since the day that I was born, I've been a big deal.